They believed it was a blessing, a noblewoman's generosity, a gift meant to nourish the poor. But in the secluded corners of 19th century Germany, not every act of charity was innocent. This is a story about power, superstition, and a fear so deep it turned a simple ritual into a means of control. Her name was Clara von Platen, born into a world of inherited wealth, unquestioned status, and silent authority. In her rural domain, her name was a law unto itself. Peasants would lower their gaze and bow when her carriage passed. Local priests dined at her lavish table, and physicians never dared to question her peculiar habits or her startlingly preserved appearance. She was admired, whispered about, almost and every morning, before the world awoke, Clara performed a ritual no one was ever meant to see. At the first hint of dawn, long before the sun touched the misty fields, the servants were quietly dismissed from the east wing of the grand manor. A single porcelain basin, smooth and cold, was prepared. Fresh milk, still warm from the estate's dairy, was poured into it with practiced care. This milk was never reused, and its purpose was never witnessed. Clara, a woman of her time and class, was a firm believer in the old aristocratic folk traditions. These were beliefs that claimed certain pure substances, when used in precise ceremonial ways, could preserve youth and vitality. To her, this wasn't vanity or indulgence. It was preservation, a duty to her lineage. After the private ritual was complete, the remaining milk was carefully sealed in earthenware jugs and delivered by a trusted servant to the nearby villagers. It was given to the widows, the sick, the hungry. They received this gift with profound gratitude, their faces etched with a mixture of reverence and need. They drank it, and some even claimed it tasted different. Richer, they'd say, sweeter than any ordinary milk. As the years passed, strange rumors began to weave themselves into the fabric of the community. People whispered that Clara von Platen never aged, that her skin remained as smooth as it was in her youth. They said that illness, which ravaged the poor villages, seemed to mysteriously avoid her estate, and more chillingly, that those who dared to offend her, even in the smallest way, would fall into sudden and inexplicable misfortune, a failed crop, a sudden sickness, a lost child. No one dared to refuse her daily gifts. It wasn't just milk anymore, it was a symbol of her favor. Inside the silent, candlelit mansion, the staff began to notice unsettling patterns, small details that, when pieced together, painted a disturbing picture. Clara avoided mirrors after sunset, her reflection seemingly a source of profound anxiety. She developed an obsession with cleanliness that bordered on mania, demanding that surfaces be scrubbed raw, and her punishments for the staff became more severe. Not for mistakes, but for questions. Curiosity was the greatest sign in the house of von Platen, and questions, they soon learned, were dangerous. In the late 1800s, this unspoken rule took on a terrifying reality. A young, inquisitive maid, new to the estate, made the mistake of speaking to the village priest about the morning rituals. Shortly after, she disappeared. The official estate records list her simply as dismissed. There was no destination noted, no reason given. She simply vanished, and her absence served as a silent, chilling warning to all who remained. The villagers continued to drink the milk. By now, it was no longer a matter of gratitude or even belief in its supposed healing properties. They drank it because they had to. Refusing a noblewoman's generosity was not just an insult. It was an act of rebellion, an act of defiance that no one could afford. The milk had become a leash, a daily reminder of who held the power and who did not. It was a taste of their own subjugation. Only decades later, long after Clara von Platen had passed away and been laid to rest in the family crypt, did her private journals surface. They were discovered by a distant heir tucked away in a locked chest. These were not confessions of cruelty or guilt. They were something far more unsettling. A detailed record of her beliefs. Page after page described a crippling fear of aging, of decay, of the inevitable loss of control that comes with time. Clara never saw her ritual as an act of dominance over others. In her mind, her immense power justified her secrecy. Her aristocratic class placed her above judgment, above consequence. She believed that those below her, the villagers, the servants, existed to receive what she gave, not to understand it. Their role was to be the passive recipients of her will, not to question it. History would later debate whether the ritual truly happened exactly as the whispers described, or if the pervasive fear of the villagers magnified a simple truth into a dark legend. The line between fact and folklore became blurred, as it so often does when looking back through the mists of time. But one thing remains chillingly certain. This was not a myth born from fantasy or a simple ghost story told around a fire. It was a story born from something very real. Power without accountability. And in that era, in those silent, foggy fields of rural Germany, unchecked power was the most potent and dangerous substance of all. It could turn a simple act of charity into a chain, and a glass of milk into a symbol of absolute control, leaving behind a legacy of moral unease and questions that still echo today.